evening, guys.
Good evening.
Hi, I'm Erica.
I'm Cortland.
And this is
Pastor
Rev. And we are
Rev and Company.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're the company. You're the Rev. Okay. And we want to say thanks again for watching last night. Yesterday we talked about the
status quo.
yes, the status quo, and then the why. And then we also mentioned we're going to talk about the how tonight. How do we transcend this religious status quo, right? Like how do we do that? I mean, we defined and talked about what it is, and it's just pretty much doing like the same traditional, right? Your granddaddy did it, your great granddaddy did it, and everybody's doing it,
Slaves did it.
right? Exactly. That's way back. Like,
There's no, you know what they expect when you come to church. It's going to be
Exactly.
the same thing all the time. You're just kind of doing it either high, low, up or down, sideways, left or right. But it's pretty much just the same thing.
Yeah. So then today we're going to talk about how do we transcend the religious status quo.
The religious status quo. So again, we talked on yesterday, and we talked about the why we're going to exist, and that is Abundant Life is going to exist to offer ministry that transcends the status quo. People are looking for something totally different nowadays. So, and they want more. People want more, and they're kind of tired of the old. I shouldn't say old, but they're kind of tired of the same old status quo and tradition. Yeah, you got that's the right word. So let me ask you this: when I think of moving to the next stage of what God has given me, I have to deal with how we're going to behave.
Mm-hmm.
So let me just ask you this: is there a way that one of you guys can think that transcending the religious status quo, how should we carry ourselves? What should be our mode of operation? Got any ideas?
I think that when we transcend, there's definitely going to be change. We should still be respecting God's house like it's God's house.
Absolutely. What are some areas of change you think?
So I think one, like Cortland mentioned, I think one, recognizing that it is God's house. I think sometimes we come and we're so lackadaisy about things, you know, like realizing that this is a holy place.
Mm-hmm.
I think recognizing that first, realizing that we may have not always done that.
Mm-hmm.
So that would probably include just practical things of, you know, walking into church, if there's something that's missing or broken or something, take care of it. Maybe even personally as a person to kind of like look and see what are some things like in my spiritual walk with Christ, like is there something that I can improve, or is there some things that I've kind of just been going through the motions about and I necessarily have any backing to it or any depth to it. I'm just doing it because I know this is what I'm supposed to do.
Sometimes I think it's a shift in philosophy or understanding of what God has asked us to be and what God has created for us through Jesus Christ. We know that Jesus Christ came to offer us salvation, but after we're saved, what does that life look like? And it's not church. And that's, we're programmed to go to church and do church things, but according to the scriptures, there's a life that comes behind or after salvation.
So that, would some of that be like totally being dependent on Christ?
One of them is, that's a good start. First of all, salvation requires that we totally depend on Jesus Christ or God's provisions for salvation. Oftentimes that's not the norm. Sometimes we try to work our way through salvation or earn salvation or mix something into it. I don't know if you're familiar with scripture. It says, "O foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you?" And what Paul was saying was, you understood that salvation came through grace through Jesus Christ, but you're going to mix something on top of it or mix something with it.
As if it doesn't stand alone by itself.
And so that's one of the things that we're doing, a shift in philosophy. So one of the things, the first part of the philosophy that the Lord shared with me is, He says, I want you to offer ministry where people are submissive to me. Now, we say we're submissive to God because we go to church, and really we're submissive to religion at that point. But God has a way of a life for us to live. He has a way for us to live. And the question is, am I willing to be submissive to that? Or am I going to be like the Galatians church and say, well, that's good, I'm going to put this with it, and I'm going to make up my own version, and And that's sort of like what we have today. Is that clear? And,
Yes.
so the first part of how we're going to carry ourselves is we're going to be completely submissive to God. Now that's in the dark. That's a shot in the dark because we have no idea what that's going to wind up looking like. But we do know that God has given us laws. He's given us judgments. He's given us ordinances. He's given us statutes. All of these reveal His character and His way. That's another word. His way for us. So the question is, are we willing to submit to all of His laws, all of His characters, all of His ways? And that shifts who we are. And that shifts us from the status quo of religion, doing the religious exercise. First of all, I got to find who God is. And that's a challenge.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So what do you do today? How do you find God?
Well, I know, and I don't want to sound religious, because I mean, clearly, like, we're
Whatever
retraining.
you do, don't sound
I know, right? I don't want
religious.
to sound religious, but I mean, it's an instruction. Like you say, His instructions tell us to seek Him, you know, to read His Word, to ask for understanding, and to pray and listen for Him to speak to you. I guess being in a place where God can talk to me,
Right.
you know, not just do things just because this is what I'm supposed to do. Like legit, it's
The Christian.
exactly.
way.
I think like sometimes I think intentionally, and I mean I'll be honest. I think sometimes, like you say, it's emotion. You don't intentionally do something. You know, let me intentionally sit here and like, Lord, whatever it is you want to say to me today, I'm going to sit here until I hear from you. You know, just intentionally try to do that. I think that's something that we don't practice because that's not a part of, you know.
It's not a part of the program.
Exactly. That's it.
Somehow we have to begin to go back to why am I looking for God? Am I looking for God for knowledge, or am I looking to God to find out what He wants me to be? And will I submit to that when I find it, or when I find out what that is? So that's the first part of how we're going to operate. We're going to look for God so that we can be submissive to whatever it is. Now, here's one of the oxymorons of all of this. I guess that's the appropriate word, and that is, how can we hear from God if we're not in the right place for God to speak? And God likes to speak to people who are submissive. I think it's in James chapter 4 where He says He resists the proud, people who already know what they're doing, and He gives more grace to the humble, and He exalts the humble. In other words, He's looking for people who've already begun to submit themselves to Him. And that's the area, that's the place where He likes to talk.
Not people.
If
Ooh,
not
where's
people.
that thing, girl? Who or what? Look,
Call
get,
by my name.
get your Benny Hinn on.
You finna Benny Hinn?
I'm getting ready to go down. I want to go down. Here, go ahead.
Oh, you want to
Go ahead.
There we
Hold
go.
on. Hold on. Let me get myself ready. Go ahead. Cause you did it. You did it. You got the
You're
anointing,
real
girl.
boy.
You got the anointing.
Pays attention.
You pays
Have
attention.
Let
mercy.
me put my Benny Hinn jacket back on.
So I agree with you. If my people which are called by my name will humble
Humble
themselves.
themselves.
Let me put your anointing jacket.
Thank you.
Hold down. Will humble themselves and pray and seek God's face. Turn from their wicked ways. Wow, there's so much we can preach on that, but this is not a preacher platform. So,
No, but you stay tuned because clearly we'll have more.
and we'll talk about the second half of how we're going to operate. So we've already talked about why we're going to exist, right? We exist to offer ministry that will transcend the status quo.
Absolutely.
How we're going to do it. We're going to be a people that are 100% submissive to whatever God has for us. All right? And in that, I'm going to close with this. I'll close my part with this. That means you don't bring God down from the mountain to you. You ascend up the mountain to Him. That's good? And
That's awesome.
Because a lot of times when we're not submissive, we give God why we do what we do, and then ask Him to come down to us and be part of this life that I have. But God has already created a life for us. You willing to live that?
Yes.
Benny, you ready to live that life?
Yes.
All right.
Awesome. Do we have any announcements this evening?
Yes. 6 a.m. Friday morning. Corporate prayer.
That's kind of early.
That's real early.
6 a.m.
Woo!
6 a.m.
Yes,
You know
ma'am.
what? We can start practicing our submission.
I'm gonna be submissive.
Look,
I'm gonna
be
be
submissive.
submissive, and I'll be there at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
And if this helps, there will be breakfast afterwards.
Oh, I'll be here. What time does breakfast start?
When we get done praying. And that's it. Everything else is the same. Pretty sure if you watched the last videos, you know what the announcements are. So stay tuned for part 2.
We have church anniversary. family and friends this week. Okay, I'm
That was,
excited.
yes.
Yeah.
That was another
Just
question.
woo-hoo, 22 years.
Woo.
Deuce, deuce.
Deuce, deuce.
Yes.
All right, everybody.
Good
Well, good night.
night.
Have a good evening. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye.